Hey guys, Mike with Long Range with the Lilies. Out at my home range of UNSC, Keely and I run a practice match here and sometimes a one-day regional match. Unfortunately, due to COVID and some other things, they've been put on hold for a while. We look forward to starting those again. One of the reasons I said that was we get an inordinate number of new shooters due to our proximity to the population centers that come to our matches. One of the big questions that the new shooters always want to know about is they see guys running tripod rear and they either A, want to learn how to do it, or B, they're terrified of it because they feel like it's a lot of stuff to manage. So what I'd like to do today is cover some of the tips and tricks that I use to utilize tripod rear and my methodology for deciding whether to use tripod rear or whether not to use tripod rear. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Okay, the first thing we need to do is decide, is this an appropriate time to use tripod rear? I tend to favor just utilizing one bag. I find I can get stable enough off of most props to just utilize one bag. But there are certain things that will influence me to either change my shooting style or to utilize tripod rear. So those four things that really I use to determine whether or not to use tripod rear are time, movement, prop stability, and target size. So time is the most important of those. Do I have the time to utilize tripod rear? Whether or not I have to deploy the tripod on the clock is a huge part of that. I utilize the new QDT tripod from 2Vets. It's a tripod purposely built for competitions. It's only got two legs and they're designed to be deployed quickly. You know, if I was utilizing a tripod for hunting or something else, I would probably look at a different tripod. This just happens to be what I use. It's designed specifically for competitions and I believe in the right tool for the job, so that's why I utilize it. So do I have the time to use the tripod? Do I have the time to deploy it, etc.? That's a huge one. The next one is movement. Do I have a lot of movement to do? Do I need to drag this thing all over? Do I need to fit it into tight places? You know, if it's a bunch of movement at a bunch of different targets, tripod is probably not the right answer. However, if it's like a couple positions with multiple engagements on the same target, then absolutely tripod may be the answer if you need that stability due to target size or prop stability. Now, that leads me into target size. So if I can maintain the wobble zone entirely within the confines of the target, then I don't need tripod rear. If the target is so small that I can't do that and my wobble zone is just all over the place and it starts to force you to do things like time your shot and do some other things that you shouldn't be doing, then maybe tripod rear is the answer. A couple of slow hits still beats getting all your shots off and missing everything. I know the old saying, if there's lead in the air, there's a chance. Hope is not a good plan of action. I would much rather take good, well-aimed, well-placed shots any day of the week. So the last thing that I use to determine whether or not I'm utilizing tripod rear is prop stability. So this is our old practice barricade. It's seen a lot of love and a lot of use over the years, and it started to really loosen up, as you guys can see here. So it's less stable than I would like it to be. I find it makes it actually a really great training tool for training one bag. But if I'm running into something like this that's super wobbly, tripod rear utilized properly can take a lot of the wobble out of it. So one of the stages at the JC Steel AG Cup match was a bunch of T-posts hammered into the ground, and the only thing you do was shoot from the top of the T-post. Super wobbly, it was a little windy, and even the wind was enough to move me to impart movement into the prop. So one of the things that my squad did, I can't take credit for the idea, was to utilize the bag, place it on top of the T-post, and apply a little bit of tension to the rear and anchor it to the tripod rear. And that really wobbly T-post suddenly became very manageable and very steady. So if your prop is really loose and unsteady and you can't get a good balance on your rifle, then utilizing tripod rear to anchor that may be the answer for you, and I think you'll find that the image will just stabilize right up and your wobble will shrink down. So those are kind of the four factors I use to determine whether or not to utilize tripod rear. Okay, So now that we've decided we're going to use tripod rear, the next thing is to have a plan and pre-stage setup. So let's start with the tripod. So some ways to set yourself up for success with your tripod. And I know it shouldn't be said, but I see it all the time, which tells me it needs to be said, is to ensure that your legs are tight. I see it all the time where a guy will have a leg that's loose and he'll start the stage stable, and then as the stage goes by and they move, it starts to collapse on them, and then they end up with something like this. And then I don't know how many videos I've seen or how many times I've seen a guy just chuck his tripod out of the way and go back to shooting one bag off the tripod. So ensure your legs are tight. That'll help a lot. Ensure that your tripod is at the right height for every position you're going to shoot from before you ever get up there. You don't want to get up to the prop and then realize that your tripod is not set up ideally for you to shoot off of. The next thing with just tripod setup is ensure that your legs are tight. You want your legs to stay open when you pick up your tripod. You don't want them, you know, collapsing on you every time you pick it up. You want them to be pliable enough to move and to utilize, but when you pick this thing up, you want it to stay open, so when you set it back down, all 3 feet are in contact with the ground. If it collapses on you, I think what you'll find is you'll have 2 legs down and 1 leg up, and you'll get a lot of this movement here, and it's no bueno. So the next part of pre-stage is having a plan. You should know exactly where your tripod is going to go before you ever get up here. So for example, with this stage, I know that as I move left to right, which I prefer to do, and we'll get into that more later, that the feet are going to start to interact with the barricade itself as I get closer over to this taller position to get in. So a couple different techniques now that we're moving during the engagement. I find that I've gravitated towards an attached gray ops plate with the Armageddon gear bag. I find that it eliminates a piece. So instead of moving a bag and then setting the rifle on it and then moving the tripod, and then it seems like every time afterwards I pick up the rifle and then the bag falls down, and then I gotta pick up the bag and put the bag down and then put the rifle down and then put the tripod. I find that having an attached rail mounted bag, if I'm utilizing tripod rear, really eliminates a step for me. So I can just put the rifle down, drag the tripod over, move the tripod, put the rifle down, and I'm good to go. I find it's a lot faster, and it really simplifies moving pieces for me, which I'm always trying to do. Another thing, I always try to move to where I am moving as a right-handed shooter, right to left. The reason I try to do that is it makes me drag my tripod. So let me open it up here. If my feet are open and I am dragging the tripod towards me, it is naturally physically opening those feet for me, and the tripod's not collapsing on itself. If I'm trying to move left to right, what happens is as you push, the feet want to close on you. So I try to drag. In the event I do have to go left to right, I try to always remember to pick it up vertically, the complete tripod to where all 3 feet are off the ground, move it to about where I think it's going to be, set it down, all 3 feet on the ground, then move my rifle to the right spot. Okay? Make sure that all 3 feet of the tripod are on the ground. If all 3 feet aren't on the ground, it is less and less stable. Ideally, all 3 legs would be at the same angle as well. As you can see, this one's a little more lean to one side just because of the terrain. If I rotate it, it becomes a lot more stable. Okay guys, just for a demonstration using the Triggercam, I'm going to shoot off the top rung of this little folding step ladder. It's pretty wobbly. I've got an Armageddon gear Schmedium game changer. Those of you that are familiar with this bag know that it's probably the most stable bag I've ever shot off of. So even utilizing this, you're going to see just how much wobble we have. I have a 25% IPSC out there at 500 yards. It's roughly 6 inches wide and 8 inches tall, so it's just roughly over 1 MOA target. So we'll see if we can hit it from the top rung here, just utilizing a bag. I'm going to try and hold about 2/10 of wind. As you can see, it's a little bit wobbly, especially vertically. Okay, managed to get an impact there. Just trying to manage my wobble and consistent, steady press. Okay, missed that one. And then one more. So you can see my wobble, especially when I'm talking. Definitely broke that one way low. Bad shot. Okay. So next we'll try it with the tripod rear. All right guys, so what I'm gonna do now is we're gonna shoot off the same wobbly top rung, but I've switched over to a rail mounted Gray Ops Inc. plate with an Armageddon gear bag attached to it. This is the bag that's designed specifically for this plate. And utilizing tripod rear, I'm just gonna show you how much more stable it is. All right, here we go. Got that same 25% IPSC out there. Get it set up here. All right, as you can see, super stable. I'm able to just make minute adjustments with my rear hand based on where I want to be on the target. I'm going to hold about 2/10 of wind. Impact. Impact. So you can see, way more stable. So what I'm going to do is one of my training practice stages. I've got a 25% IPSC out at 505 yards. It's 6 inches wide by 8 inches tall. So it's roughly an MLA. And I've got my practice barricade here. And I'm gonna shoot 2 shots from each of the levels, working my way up and then back down, middle and bottom again for a total of 10 rounds. I'll be utilizing tripod rear so we can show you the stability through the trigger cam and you guys can see just how stable you can get. The other thing moving in under the cover gets us is a lot more obstacles to work around. So I'm really gonna have to be cognizant of where I put my tripod and how I place my footprint, just to make sure that I'm, you know, doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing, that I'm stable, all 3 feet are on the ground, etc. So with that being said, we'll give it a go. And if I could have Keely start me, make sure everything's set up and good to go here.
Okay, shooter, are you ready?
Yep.
Stand by. Beep.
So you can see me having to really kind of fiddle with it a little bit. It's okay. Picking it up as I move it, that way I don't collapse my legs on me. Okay, stable again. Moving it. All right, so fortunate enough to get a clean run there. As you can see, I really had to focus on where I was putting my tripod and how I was moving it because it was getting caught up in some things. There was a couple times in there where you could see where it got wobbly and one of those legs was off the ground and I had to kind of just shift it around a little bit, let it settle, and then break good shots. So the last thing I want to say with tripod rear is, if you're going to utilize tripod rear, you have to practice it. It's just like anything else. The time to decide you want to do tripod rear for the first time ever is not at a match. It's probably not going to go well for you. It's something that you need to practice. So with that being said, I hope these tips kind of help you out. Get out there, try them out for yourself. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you thought. And as always, we appreciate it. So guys, if you like what you see, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching, guys.